What's up, everybody? This is Newton Mayenge. Welcome to the league. Today's topic is on little kids' big feelings, and I had to bring my next guest on to discuss. He's an author and co-owner of his own publishing company called Dad's Publishing, where they create books talking about real-life circumstances through the lenses of children. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to welcome author Sergio Liden. Hey, Sergio, welcome to the league. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. We are so excited to have you here and just all the amazing work you've been doing. Our topic for today is little kids' big feelings, and you just exemplify everything of what each one of those words just mean. Just what you're bringing to the table to just the world, your children's books. And I want to tell you kind of what that means to me, little kids' big feelings. You're providing resources in regards to big life circumstances, serious circumstances that adults deal with, and you're putting them in words that kids can understand, looking through their lenses, looking through their eyes, having them have an understanding from a financial standpoint, from autism standpoint. And that's huge. I've got a friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine from college, and he has a daughter who's autistic. And they have two older kids as well. And they had a hard time having to explain to their older kids on why their younger daughter, who's autistic, had so much more attention that needed to be given to her. And they were dealing with so many, just what's the best way to say it? So many insecurities that were coming from the rest of their kids. Were they important enough? Were some of the questions that came up for the kids. Were they special? Did they matter? Because they always saw their young sister getting all this attention. So I'm really happy that you've created these resources so that not only kids can use, but adults can learn how to have conversations in regards to adult, quote unquote, adult things. What made you get into the business of creating these children resources for not only kids to use, but adults to use?
Mr. Manga, I've just realized I'm no longer doing any more interviews. You're going to be doing them for me for two reasons. One, for one, your last name is so much easier to pronounce than mine. I don't even know how to pronounce my last name. I fake it by saying Liden. I told you in the pre-interview that I have to speak to Swedish family to figure out how to pronounce my last name. The second is that you understand what it's about, that you understand what these books are. And that's the whole concept of the company. That's the whole concept of the publishing company, Dad's Publishing. I've written over 30 books. This is the fourth one that we're releasing, that we've come out with, the second one this year. We've got five more books coming out this year. We've got them booked through 2025 with releases. So all the books have one thing in common, which is, my children. My son is not a purple hippopotamus who's trying to become a unicorn by talking to his giraffe sister friend. They're not. Those children's books are available, and anybody can happily go get them, and that's fantastic.
Yes.
But one of the things that we do as a society is that we look at children and think they're dumb simply because they're short. 60% of a child's brain is developed by the age of 4. So I wanted to write children's books that were honest. No matter what's going on, even though it may not very well be understood to the extreme that we understand as adults, understand the consequences of what something means. I mean, the prefrontal cortex developed, which is right behind the forehead, which deals with understanding other individuals, understanding consequences, kind of how to live in a society. It's not actually developed until the age of 25. Mm-hmm. So a child has an understanding of everything that's going on, but not necessarily what that means regarding what are the consequences to something like that. You were telling a story about your friend that it's got a child with autism and has two older siblings. They don't understand what autism means to the extreme of what autism is and why there's a little more attention going that direction. This book, His Own Way, is simply autism through a 5-year-old's point of view. Because when my son was diagnosed with autism, I've got 2 children. When my wife and I were told when my son was 3, my daughter was 5 at the time, your son is autistic, I wasn't sure what that meant. I wasn't sure if that meant a death sentence. I wasn't sure. For anybody who's listening, it's not a death sentence. Nobody dies of autism. I wasn't sure if that meant I didn't know what that meant for, for his adulthood. Would he get married? Would he drive a car? All those, crazy things that, as a parent, I'm concerned about. I did not know what it meant. All I knew is that there was something going on. They said severe autism. I mean, if it was on the other end of the spectrum and he had, let's say, Asperger's, Bill Gates has Asperger's. So if he had Asperger's, I would have retired by now because he would have made, he would become a little billionaire. But instead, instead I got the other end of the spectrum where I have a kid who's putting himself in danger on a regular basis. Through the book is told through his 5-year-old sister's eyes. The beginning of the book is my brother is autistic. It really is quite funny. Because for her, she saw it as entertainment, the crazy actions that he was taking. Yeah. It means he opens and closes doors all day and hops around like a bunny. The opening and closing doors, I remember that. I wrote it, and then I did all the storyboards before giving it to my friend, my illustrator, Francesco, and explaining him what my drawings meant because I can't draw. And when my son was opening and closing doors all day, I remember grabbing him and holding him, pulling him away from the door because I didn't want him to hurt himself. He was 3, and he cried for like 5, 6, 7 hours nonstop. And I said, "Okay, go ahead and do the door thing." And I just kept my hand in the door jamb. The only thing with that illustration is, it shows him opening and closing doors all day. It doesn't show my hand in the door jamb to make sure that he was safe. Everything and anything he could do. There's that illustration where the daughter learns to swing at the park. She finally learns to swing, and the parents are running after her brother. My son was the youngest person in the state of California to have both a handicap plate and handicap placard. The plate goes on the car. The placard follows him wherever he goes. Because he was 6 years old. Because he got them because one of the joys that he always had is, running out in front of cars. He's 16 now. He still likes running out in front of cars. The aspect of, we're talking about the pituitary gland and the ability to understand the concept of consequence. For him, it's even worse. Just that aspect. So the fear of him dying, getting killed, maiming himself on I'd say regular basis, but I'm not sure what word I could substitute that for being something more regular. It was 24/7, running out of the house and, opening the door and running to the street. We stopped all of this. My wife and I had to stay awake 24/7 to assure that at night he wouldn't get up and, run out to the street. We built a gate. We have a 6-foot, fence around the property, the front of the property, because of that very factor. We had to talk to the city to get a variance to make that happen. We have changed our lives so totally and completely for him because of that aspect. But my daughter's not something, she doesn't care. She doesn't care about, about those things. She's just looking at the fact that, mom and dad stopped paying attention to me and I have no idea why. Even in the story, the idea behind the connection that the siblings have. And it's this amazing connection that they have because the doctor stated at the age of 3, he was never going to look at you in the eyes. He's never going to he's never going to hug you. And he's not going to eat solid food. At the age of 11, but they didn't take the X factor into play when my daughter, at the age of 11, taught him to eat solid food, and now he eats the refrigerator down. I have to refill the entire refrigerator every 2 days. I don't like to say I have a dad bod. That's not honest. I like to say I have a fat bod. I'm 6'5" and a half. I'm a big guy, and he eats 3 or 4 times more than me, my wife, and my daughter combined. Wow. And he's really, really slim. So I have resentments, of course, for that. I'm thinking if I packed in maybe 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day like he does, then maybe I'd start losing weight. I don't know, but he's solid.
Circuit I was talking about offline.
If we don't laugh, we cry, and that's why I have all this Kleenex. I'm crying from my forehead. It's not hot. These are just tears coming out of my forehead. The aspect every morning I give him a hug and I sing a song so I can hug him longer, and it's something that he accepts. But of course, if I just held him for 20 seconds, it doesn't really do anything but make him just go like, Dad, I have stuff to do, so it's a good morning to you in the theme of happy birthday sung by a Russian mafioso with a cold. That's the easiest way to describe it. Good morning to you. Good morning to Drew. Good morning, dear baby. Good morning to Drew. But I sing it really slowly, so he sounds like he's got a really bad cold or a really bad case of coronavirus. So I can hug him for that much longer. Of course, he thinks it's funny. He's 16. He thinks it's funny. He's entertained by it, and I do that for my daughter as well. She thinks I'm what word is there for that an 18-year-old girl says about her dad when he's doing something like that? He's funny. Now she thinks I'm funny. There was a period of time, obviously, as a teenager where she, wouldn't laugh at anything I did. But that X factor of her coming into his life was something. And, we took him to therapy 5 days a week, an hour and a half, hours and hours of therapy every single day, and nothing worked. Mm-hmm. What did work is what my daughter did, what she did for her brother, and that was allowing him to do things in his own time, do things in his own way. Yeah. And by not forcing it upon him, there was a level of trust that was created. And that is the reason why he moved forward. When I was writing the book, I write and I rewrite in my head about, I don't know, way too many times. And then I finally, then when I'm finally to put it down, on paper, it takes me about 10 minutes to write each book, to put them on paper. And that's only because I don't type very well. I can never find the Q, so I make sure there's no Q anywhere because I can never find that, that letter on my keyboard. So I don't play with 26 letters in the alphabet, only 25, because I still can't find the Q. That's why it's that's why none of the characters ever quit. They're never quiet. I just stay away from the cues. But, when I was writing it, one of the things I wanted to do is I didn't want to just do it about her experience with her brother. And before I released the book, I showed it to my daughter and she said, she looks at all the work that I do. And she said, Dad, how did you know? Yeah, this is what I was going through. And it just really, really hit me because that first year she likes to draw. And that first year I looked back at her drawings, from that period between 5 and 6, I looked at those illustrations and I was like, wow, they're really sad. And I thought, wow, I failed as a parent. My only job as a parent is to protect my children. Yeah. So when I was creating this book, and I wrote it in 2008, it was multiple factors. One, accepting someone for their differences. Because, accept somebody who's not you, not for their differences, accept somebody who's not you. One of the things that's, not to get political, but on the larger spectrum with his own way, in this country, there's a division. I like you, we're blaming you for what's going on. No, it's your fault for what's going on. We're very much focusing on our differences instead of focusing on our shared humanity. Yes. The easiest way that I could illustrate that. So each book, as you stated at the beginning, so beautifully, that they're told very much simple enough for a child to read them and understand them. But as an adult, you can look at them and say, wow, they have much deeper meaning. I remember animated films. Just shut me up anytime, please.
I'm loving it.
I remember animated films used to be absolutely painful to go to because there was nothing for the adults. So, how many times can you see how many sequels of How to Train Your Dragon can you go and watch? And you go like, wow, it's kind of the same thing as last time. But what they started doing is they started putting in humor for the parents so that the parents could get something out of it. Try watching the movie Shrek now as an adult and just listen to all the jokes that they have for you that for your child, they'll never, ever get. And that's what exactly. That's why, Eddie Murphy as Donkey is the most child-friendly and adult-friendly, depending on which one you are, character there is. Because,
you're right.
It's crazy. And Mike Myers as Shrek, the jokes that are in there, it's the most kid-friendly if you're a child. And if you're a parent, it's the most parent-friendly because there are jokes in there for you that the kid will never, ever understand. That's what I wanted to do with these books, not following the Shrek. I love Eddie and Mike. They're brilliant. But I wanted to do a book that was simple enough for children to understand and simple enough for adults to be able to get it. Doing it in a creative, sweet way that was simple enough to get a message across. And then the older you get, you're like, oh, you know what? I understand this a little bit more. I understand it a little bit more. In fact, the reason I do the storyboards for them is because there are 2 lines of text per page. This book is 39 pages. The last page is always kind of the conclusion of the story without any text.
Yeah.
But you don't need text for that last 39th page, which on the last page always says the end. That's the only text on that page letting you know the story's over. But you don't need text because in that last image, you know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
You don't need text. You look at the image and you're like, oh, wow. Okay. Okay, that's what a great conclusion there is. You don't need text. And I wanted to make sure for anybody who did not know how to read, for the youngsters, that what you see as an image is what you see, is what you're reading. So yeah. You're not reading anything that's not up there. And you could go through the entire book. You should try it. Go through the entire book without reading any of the text. And you just go like, wow, yeah, I kind of get it. My brother is autistic. It really is quite funny. A little girl is pointing to a photograph on the wall. I did all the drawings. So with Francesco, he wasn't, he didn't from the top of his head. This is my experiences. The little girl's pointing to a picture of a photograph on the wall where the mother, father, and sister are standing up and the brother's laying down. He's not following the thing. So she's laughing, pointing at a picture. You're like, okay, there's something going on that's funny. Yeah. It means he opens and closes doors all day and hopping around like a bunny. You see him hopping around and opening and closing doors. And it's like, you don't actually need to read it. You can see it in the visuals on the image. So I wanted to make sure that the images were strong enough without the text and that the text was strong enough without the images. And that together you get something extra. And then the last page, you realize, text is not really a necessity anywhere. I think I just may have avoided my own career. I think I just fired myself, as the...
something, Sergio, it all comes down to trust. Everything you just said comes down to trust. And, you found a way to speak with your daughter to be able to get her to understand that she's loved. And ultimately that the family is one unit, so to speak. So she's a part of that unit. Building trust with kids is huge. And you built that trust to know that, to make her understand that she's loved as well. And that's the priceless thing in this whole dynamic that you're talking about. So you didn't fire yourself whatsoever.
No, as an author, I was saying,
brought it full circle.
No, as an author, I think I fired myself because I said you don't need the text, and I can't draw. That for that I'm fired.
I'm gonna add something to that though. If anything, you've created a genius scenario out of it, because when you can illustrate, when you can get something to be understood to anyone without any text, that's huge. And so you've met people in the middle. You've met kids and the way that they think. You've also been able to accommodate adults in the way that they think, to be able to process the same thing simultaneously and get the same result. And Sergio, that goes back to the books that you created. You're creating books that are allowing children to feel trusted, and in turn, you trust the children. And that's something that is so priceless, because now you're creating legitimate conversations about real life issues. And I couldn't have said it better at the beginning. Little kids, big feelings.
Yeah, you know what? Absolutely. All 30 of the books that I've written, there are only 30 thus far. I'm going to be signing up other authors.
Only 30.
Yeah.
You're building an enterprise here.
No, I stopped counting at 30. I've got over 30, but exactly. A little bit of insanity on this side. But every single one of them is written from the child's point of view. Yeah. Every single one of them is looking at whatever it is that's going through. Can adults use them? Yeah, absolutely. My God, they're prescription for whatever is going on. If you're worried with regards to financial insecurity, that you're not able to live the life that you're not able to provide for your family, what you think they should be getting because of what you were able to do last year, get the book, The Greatest Christmas Ever, told from a child's point of view. If you're thinking that, that today's a really tough day and you're not sure if you're going to get through it, because it's just get Little Itty Bitty's First Day. There's 17 in that series as of right now. I've got some more in my head. If you're worried about if you're thinking about the pandemic and being locked down just really sucks, get Little Itty Bitties Fly Me to the Moon. Those are the first 3 that have gone out. Little Itty Bitties Fly Me to the Moon. That's a simple story. It's what, at night when the parents put the baby in the crib and then they leave, it's what happens next. And, they put Little Itty Bitty in the crib and, they go to bed. And what happens that night with Little Itty Bitty? And it very much brings in the pandemic. It's the most recent book I wrote. I wrote it in March, something like that, March, April last year, during 2020, because I wanted to talk about the pandemic, but I didn't want to preach. I don't believe preaching has ever helped me get across any information to anybody. And when somebody preaches to me, I don't listen to them. I kind of shut down my defenses, because somebody that's pointing their finger at me and telling me, this is what there it is. Just making sure that it's pointing at the camera. This is what you need to do. And the only way that you're going to be able to, it's like, shut up. I just go like this. It's like, please stay away.
Where can everyone find your book?
My business partner is a dad and I'm a dad. So we're dadspublishing.com. We're currently selling the books only as ebooks because of the pandemic. It's making it almost impossible for printing. So for at least a year, we're going to put them up on as ebooks, and they're all currently available on Apple, Amazon, Kobo, and Google. Just go to dadspublishing.com, and from there you can find the books that we currently have out, books that are coming up, and the books that are going to be released, throughout 2020. So we're always updating it with the new books that are coming out, so you can see what we have and what is available. Everything's available as ebooks right now.
Well, we'll make sure everyone knows. Once again, this is Sergio Liden. Sergio, thank you so much for your time. You are doing a fantastic job on bridging the gaps between children and adults, talking about real life circumstances.
It's been a pleasure. In fact, my next book is a book called My Mommy and Daddy's My Mom, *S. I know it's written wrong. It's because it's told from a child's point of view. It's a child growing up in a single parent household. So,
I'm looking forward to that.
Topics that all of us, that all children can relate to, but it's we adults, they're too short, which means they're too dumb, so they don't understand, and they remember everything.
Yes.
So,
more than we can ever imagine. More than we think.
And this is to let them know that they're not alone in that plight.
Yes.
Because then they'll grow up knowing that they're not alone. And for adults that forgot, that are dealing with issues, to dumb it down for adults, because children are already smart.
That's right. Everyone, dadspublishing.com. Make sure you check out every book that Sergio has. We look forward to reading them. We look forward to supporting you. Everyone, Sergio Liden, this is Newton Mayenge, the League Talk Show. Everyone, please be safe. Take care of yourselves and your families. We'll talk soon.